Hello everyone, Jessica here and welcome to my studio. This is not going to be one of those sketchbook review videos that I've seen so many of where there's a stack 3 feet high and we talk about all the pros and cons of each kind. This is a video about a person who has been in a long time search for perfect sketchbooks for what she's doing, and there are only 3 or 4. And I'm going to tell you exactly what they are and exactly what they do. And I will put links so that you can find them. And none of them are one is really high end, but we'll save that till the end. It's just magic. And even I am afraid to start in it. And I say that because after, 80 some volumes, I'm not very afraid of starting a new sketchbook. So I started my sketchbook passion back around 2003, maybe, or 2. And I actually used a scrapbook at that time because it was all that I could find that I could make art in and add photos to. At that time, and this time right now, I was combining those 2 things because that turns out to be the best, but that's another video. So anyway, what I was trying to do was basically record my life. It's what I'm still trying to do. In all these years, I went to total illustration and then back and blah, blah, blah. But it's also about how the sketchbooks I was able to find drove my journey. And so after the scrapbook one, which you can imagine was really clumsy to work with, I looked for a hardcover sketchbook that had paper that I thought would maybe stand the test of my media, watercolor mostly. And I found the Moleskine, and yeah, that is the way they said it in those days. I don't know. I've heard it every kind of way, but I think it's more like Moleskine than moleskin. They're sketchbooks, and they had a watercolor sketchbook. And I thought, oh, well, that's great. But I really hated the watercolor paper. And the other thing is I wanted to work portrait, and they only came in landscape. And so what I went for at the time was their sketchbook. It's called a sketchbook. And this is not on my list of 3 or 4 favorites right now, trust me. But I wanted to start where I started to tell you how I got where I got. And so this is a Moleskine sketchbook and has a hardcover, fake leather, but I mean, this is really old. This is like 2005 and it's not in bad shape considering it was well loved and well used and traveled with even. Some issues were that the paper is a nice, it's a nice weight. And it can take a little bit of moisture, but it is clay coated or some kind of coated. I could be wrong saying clay, but it is clay coated. And so when I tried to use watercolor on it, it just didn't like it. It sunk in and wouldn't move. It wouldn't flow. It was a disaster. It was dull. I hated it. So, but you say, look, you have colors in here. I do. And what I am grateful for about the Moleskine sketchbook part of my journey is it introduced me to watercolor pencils. And I knew they were out there. I've been an illustrator for a million years, so I knew they were out there, but I didn't know what they were capable of. Let's put it that way. And so I thought, I was desperate. I wanted to keep my sketchbooks, keep volumes, and so I went for this and I went out and I got the best watercolor pencils that I could find. And I started practicing with those and a water brush. I have a video here on the channel about how you use these and which my favorite brand. But this with the watercolor pencils was able to give me, I made charts and everything. It gave me a washy look like watercolor. And if you've seen my current sketchbooks, you know this was a long time ago. And so I continued with that for several years, and I think about till about 2013. And I'll just give you a glimpse of, you know, what is, it's more dull than I'm used to. I was able to stamp in it. I was able to get kind of intense with color, with colored watercolor pencils. And I wanted to show you, I also combined sketching with photos, and these are not really photos, they were transferred in. At that time, I had a paper that you could make an inkjet print and just transfer into your sketchbook. I had to stop making it, so don't get excited. But I would combine photo transfers with watercolor pencil. And this was fun for those of you who've ever heard of Carla Sondheim. This was when I discovered her. I visited Salida, Colorado, and went in a little gallery, and there was her work with her darling little girls. And I own one of those originals, and she went on to become very well known. But anyway, combination of photos, stuff, that's somebody's business cards there. This was done with the watercolor pencils. I think a little bit of ink tints in this one too, which gave me, when I got a hold of those, I had more color intensity, which is closer to my style. But anyway, and I did this, which was my 15 colors that I could travel with. And there is a workshop on this particular, on making this kind of a page on Skillshare, and I will put a link to it. It will soon be on my website as well. So anyway, this is how this looked. And I went on from here for years with this procedure. Okay, so what happened in 2013? Well, I was following Kate Johnson, who is such a wonderful, Kathy Johnson, wonderful watercolorist. And she, on her Facebook or something, talked about a brand new book that a friend of hers had given her. And her friend was the person who came up with the Stillman and Burns sketchbook line. Now, between here and here, and because I was in the art supply business because of my paper, I was lucky enough to know and work with several manufacturers of books. One of them now has been bought by Speedball, but Tom, who was the head of the company called Global Arts, we talked and worked on a number of things over time, and nothing really came up to snuff. But they had the handbooks. I got those. The paper would buckle. The watercolor wouldn't move. I might say I was used to watercolor on Arches paper for my whole life. And so I had a dance with watercolor already about what it would do. And so when I tested a paper and it didn't even come close to knowing those dance steps, then I had to move on. So anyway, there were lots of experiments that didn't work, but in general, there were very few. This was the birth, remember, of the sketchbooking art movement. There were very few people involved and very few audience members involved. And so there weren't a lot of manufacturers running around trying to make sketchbooks the way there are now, because there's so many sketchers now. So I'm going to set the little Moleskine aside, thank it for my introduction to watercolor pencils, and I'm going to move to the Stillman and Burn. This is still, I would say, my most used sketchbook. This happens, they have all kinds of variations. This happens to be the one that's Beta, supposedly a cold press, but it's a very smooth cold press. There is the same paper in a Zeta version, which is a hot press. It's very much smoother. Okay, and this, they have hardcovers with black hardcovers, and they have all kinds of sizes. They have colored papers, on and on and on. But this particular beta book has what they call it a 140, but the grams don't compute to that, and the field computes to more of a heavyweight paper. I would call this more like a 200 in feel, and in the fact that it doesn't warp and so on. And now I was back to complete watercolor. I fell madly in love with this, became a real advocate online, became a friend of the gentleman who came up with it. And I don't know, I must have 60 of my books or something are still going to burn. So it wasn't until recently, when there was an influx of 100% cotton, affordable sketchbooks, that I even stepped aside at all. So why do I love this sketchbook? I love it because anything I do to it, it's okay. All right, this is watercolor, real watercolor with water, over a pretty big area. It's not all wet at once, of course, because it would all run into each other, but that's a kind of a big area for actual wet watercolor. And so nothing, see, no warp. Okay, and I do a lot of text, and I wanted a paper that was smooth enough and that would take the text. I always plan and draw in pencil and use a vinyl eraser. And so the paper had to be happy with that. I use a light, like a H series pencil to sketch, and a vinyl eraser. And people who say you shouldn't sketch first have, I don't know, I think problems. I don't sketch to be a perfectionist. I don't sketch to get hung up on doing it over and over and all these things that people got to say. I sketch because that's how I create. It's a permission stick. My pencil, and I even have these that go on the end, is how I create a page layout. And believe me, I use light pencil and eraser because there's a lot of erasing. Why? Not because I made a mistake. I can draw by now, God forbid. I shouldn't be able to, right? And so, not because of that, because I move things. So I will start sketching this, and then I'll add this, and then I go, I don't really like that flow, the composition design thing, right? I will erase an entire sketch and do it again in a different place. And when I am done with a very rough end, I refine it with pencil still, because I'm not the greatest drawer in the world. And so, yeah, do I make a line wrong, or not even wrong, but I might sketch like a bouquet of flowers in a vase, and I don't think that leaf going that way is right. It just doesn't feel right to me. And so I can erase that leaf and I can put it someplace else, and on and on and on. But this is what creates. If I had to go to some deserted place and I could only have a piece of paper and one thing, this would be it. Because this is where it really happens. The rest of it is fill in, ink in, techniques, and then I call it my coloring book, because I go in and paint after everything is all set. Okay, I can also put photos in here. They don't come on stuck because it's a nice smooth surface. And I am now, like I said, combining photos a lot with my sketches. This is acrylic marker brush pens, and I had a little more of a bend in the page here, but that's because, and a lot of people don't know this, you can't put acrylic on one side of something unless it's really heavy cardboard, because the acrylic dries and it creates a tension on the surface of that side of the paper. If the tension is not matched on the other side, which in this case it isn't, because over here are photos with a double stick tape, then the page is going to bend because the tension's not the same on both sides. If you didn't know that, then it's a good thing to know. If you did know it, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, this was acrylic marker. This is watercolor. I took pictures at Home Goods of some of the pots on their shelf, and then I come home with the pictures and I arrange the pots into still life. It's one of my little creative things that I do. Photos and drawings again. I even put here's a little bird over here, a little sticker of my friend Janine. One of her little birds, and I add that kind of thing, and all sticks really nicely to this paper, and removable tapes will come back off too. So I'm just quickly showing you the combination here. This is about my dear friend visiting, and we went to Harry's Roadhouse, and instead of doing all that sketching, because I have sketched that before, I picked up from the internet their logo and stuff, and so these are photographs that are put in. This is the whole page is a sketch. We went to see this amazing kind of, I'm not going to call it a ruin, it's an abandoned church. It's not very far from here, and this wonderful historic graveyard, and so I've also sketched that a lot, but this was a side view, and it has this wonderful rust that goes up the white adobe stucco-y thing, and I was intrigued by that. So that's an entire page of watercolor. Whole thing is watercolor, top to bottom. Large areas put in. This whole wash area was put in at once. And again, I'm going to show you the edge of the paper. See? No problem. This one is all photos except for this. I always have a balance of things. But if it's somebody else's art and I want to remember how much I like it, I'm not going to draw their art. And so I just put in pictures of it. And this isn't finished. This is my Small Adventures book for 2026. So far from done. This is how I do my writing, as I do it all in pencil first. Because I'll spell something wrong or I'll forget a word or whatever. So I check it out, and then I have a video coming up about how I get it in here so it is so nice and straight like that. It's not an instant fix, but it works every time. So, okay. So this is my #1 book. I use a lot of sketchbooks at once for different things. This is my #1 book for my everyday style of sketching with photos and drawings and everything else under the sun. So not that long ago, it came to my attention that there were sketchbooks of 140-pound, 100% cotton paper on Amazon for $13 or up to $17 for the bigger portrait like I was using. I thought that can not even be real, but it was. Now the brand that is my favorite is Tumuarta. Tumuarta, and they have books of different sizes. And they're quite nice. The fabric covers, they've got a good elastic that works. Even in our dry climate where the elastics on like the Moleskines all had to be cut off because they like stretched and unraveled. I put these do not come with this beautiful art. These are stickers from Little Truth's studio. And I love Lori's artwork on stickers, and most of my books have a sticker on the front. And I will link to her in the description. Anyway, so 100% cotton paper, and I'm like, and it's not, sometimes you'll see that, and it has a very regular machine pattern, but this wasn't. It was nice and random. And this was like, I'd sometimes do a Pinterest challenge, and I go to the first page of my Pinterest feed, and I pick something and draw it in a sketchbook. And I read books, and I do my version of whatever they did. And I always note where that's from and everything. And this is the watercolor on this watercolor paper. And it's cold press. And they do make hot press if that's your thing. And the cold press, you can still write really well. This is a small pit pen. And so I don't have any skipping or anything going on. And these are just, this book I just use for, I see things in art books and I want to try them. So I've never painted, like in this case, I've never painted a wet wash over dried red before. And I thought, oh, that can't be done. But hey, here's hers, here's mine. It can be done. This was cut paper. It's from a wonderful cut paper book. And I'm going to do a book review on these books one of these days, I swear. And this is me with watercolor, not cut paper. It just moved me to do that. And here's a magazine picture. I sometimes do this when I'm attracted to shapes or colors. And I just like at Home Goods, I just grab the pottery out of there and make a still life. Not finished. Again, a magazine, and I thought the legs on this were really awesome. So I did this painting, and then often in these I will keep track of the watercolors I used. A lot of them are from a lot of different people. I have a whole watercolor thing where I took you through my different palettes of different brands, and that's what I use. They're all around me every day, and I grab whatever. So you got Daniel Smith here, Sennelier, American Journey, Redbud, that's a homemade paint company. Addison and Sedgwick is my favorite homemade paint company. Anyway, I pull those palettes like you saw in that other video, and I use whatever works to match the colors I'm looking for. All right. This was, I watched a Domestica class and on these rocks, and I did these two versions, and again, the palette that I ended up with. And here's a couple of versions of a vase I saw in a magazine picture. And this is painted with the acrylic brush markers. So on the watercolor paper, it does very well. It's a little bit streaky, but I could have gone over it in a different direction and it wouldn't be. This is watercolor, handmade, and these are the colors. Okay, so experimental and works great. And this is also the acrylic pen. And this is part of a painting by an artist that I don't own this painting, but I own some of her work. And this is the thing about creativity, right? I looked at this in one of the gallery magazines around here. What got me was this picture right here, the shape of that. I just loved it. And that's not what I did with it. You know, I combined it with a bunch of other things and played around with that transparency overpainting thing. And this was actually, these are little, I can even show you one. They're called Click It. And they are by Click Art and Zebra. And they're a fine tip water soluble marker. And so what I did here, I paletted them, meaning I scribbled on a palette and picked it up with a water brush to get the wash. That's how you get these to make to look like watercolor. Okay, and this is the last page I got too, and I saw this, and I'm into grays right now and earth tones, really big time. I don't know what's going on, because usually my work is so brilliant color, but this is what's going on. And, you know, here's just the ink drawing, and you can see I was a little sketchy and just whatever with this. I did do pencil first, though, because I didn't know where I wanted these things till I drew it. And I actually stuck with it the way it was first drawn, but I didn't have to if I didn't want to. Okay, so this one is not, I'm going to show you another Tumuarta in a minute. But this one is not. It's Light Wish is the brand, and it's so similar. But I have to say, it is not my favorite. This is my favorite, and you'd say, well, somebody did use the same paper or whatever. I don't know about that. I just know that I really like this. And what I didn't like too is like part of the cover fabric. It's not sturdy like this, and the front under the sticker is bubbly, like it didn't get all glued down. But anyway, I don't mind the look on it. I kind of like it, but it isn't quite. I don't know what to say. Easily blendable, maybe, as this paper. So that means the sizing is different a little bit. If you don't know what sizing is on watercolor paper, it's something they put inside. It's a kind of a gluey thing. Inside and some on the outside that controls the absorbency. And this is a YouTube channel, Marina Art, and she's very cool. She does little casual watercolor sketches, and I was trying to be casual for a while. I give up though every time I try, but these are her, and this is her, but I made it very different from her. She had one egg and stuff, and I just got carried away. And this is from Brandon Campbell. He's an illustrator, and I follow him on Patreon, and he does these different things, and he's got this retro-y look, and so I do some of his. So this is what I do with these books, but basically it runs me through some real interesting differences in technique. There's some acrylic brush in this one too, in this background here. This is from Karen Elaine. She's wonderful. She has a book called Wild Watercolor, and the flower was something like this, but I was after that palette. I really liked it, so I matched it with mostly yeah, this is all Addison and Cedric, except for the Daniel Smith Green Appetite, which I love. Experiment, really experiment. I never go this loose, but the ink I was trying to find out, is that ink waterproof? No. And that's what this was, a Uniball Signo 207. I saw a watercolorist drawing with this and painting over it, and I thought, oh, great, real thin line, and it won't run. Well, it does run, so if you mind that, you won't want that pen. This is from Karen Elaine again, and it's just playing with leaf color. And this I just picked. Every time I see a hanging lamp, I pick it up and put it on this page. Now this page is dead now, so I'm going to have to. Usually I color the bulb or give it a glow, and I'll get back to doing that. But I just quickly stuck these in here. I think it's the shape that fascinates me. But, when people say there's nothing to sketch, goodness gracious, all you got to do is look around and be open to something triggering something. Like, I like that, okay, go draw it. And it might get you to draw a bunch more of those. And here I am back to my grays and earth tones again, doing this and this. And so I don't hate this book, this Light Wish, at all. In fact, I like it. I just don't think I like it as much as this. There's something more soft and wonderful here in the Tumuarta. Okay, and this is the last page I've got done in here, yeah. And so again, here's a picture in a magazine, like a Martha Stewart magazine or somebody. When I see this, what speaks to me is this pot shape right here. This one's good too, but I decided to keep them both rock shaped. And so this thing of rocks, and I thought, yeah, and play with these shapes and have some pots of rocks. And then I was in my creative mode, added a little bowl with an extra rock, added a plant with rock-shaped leaves. So I will be back to paint this with watercolor. And one more thing about the Light Wish, I wish that they would somehow seal the cover. This is bare fabric, and it picks up dirt that I have to try to wash off whenever I take it anywhere. Or on this desk, you can pick up a lot of dirt. Not only is there paint, but there are 3 Siberian Huskies who help me in here. And they help mostly by throwing their coats, it's called. But you get like 3 extra dogs twice a year worth of this gorgeous fur. However, the gorgeous fur gets everywhere. So does the dust from their dog run. So this, you can pick up dirt. And this does, but these don't, just because they're done a little better, I think. So back to my loving the Tumuarta brand. I found this, and oh my gosh, and it is theirs. and it's my size I like, and this is like an ultra suede, so it feels wonderful. And this particular one has a little sound, a little cracking sound, but the other ones don't. And this came wrapped with this wonderful, like, faux leather lace and this little folded logo thing. What I did with all that, I made a cat toy out of it, like a butterfly, and then I tied it to a stick, and my cat goes nuts. My cats go nuts. This I used for a spring trip this year to Arizona, and I think I might have shown this in another video. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I did a little step through of a lot of it. But anyway, I just want you to concentrate on the beauty of the watercolor here. This paper of theirs, it's got this velvety thing going on that I love, and the flow and the blending of the watercolor is just perfect. And this is not finished. It's, you know, my route that I do in my travel journals. And I have to go back and fill in the little drawings along the way. And these were at the motel. These were pots. Look at the blending there. You just can't do that with red and green and stuff unless you have total control of where that paint's going. And that is what this paper does. And this book, by the way, is only like $17. It's not your $50, $40, $60, and it's better in my opinion. I was going to say humble opinion. I never have those somehow. But in my opinion, this is a great watercolor book. And photos, they adhere to the paper, writing on the paper. This is a cold press, and they do make hot press. I don't know if they make it in this decal paper. For sure. I don't know. But this is a lot of watercolor at a time on a page. It's the whole page there. And no nothing as far as wrinkling or anything. And this is my sister-in-law's dining room table where I always get to do my sketching when I'm visiting. These are photos of some places we went. These are stickers by wonderful artist Zinnia, named after the flower. Look her up. She's in Arizona. Her art is wonderful if you like Southwestern art. This is one of my recipes. These will be in a book one of these days soon, but I like to paint the things I make because I hate to cook. I'd rather paint. And so I just make up stuff when I cook. And if it turns out really well, then I paint the stuff. And then you can do it again. So that's a different story for a different time, but that's what that is. Some sketching in Tubac. It's a little village south of Tucson, Arizona. It's like a tiny Santa Fe. It's so arty and so wonderful. Forgot my phone, which I never do, so I had to take reference shots with my brother and sister-in-law's phone, which I did. This is their logo. I really like it, so I redrew it and painted it. These are, all three of these actually are right next door to each other on one of the main roads. There's only about 3 roads in Tubac. It's an all walkable village. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And so this is a lot of watercolor. And, you know, again, there's tricky stuff here. Like you want that shadow to blend out to white, and you want to indicate bricks without drawing them all, and rust on the roof. And this doesn't happen without really good watercolor paper. So this is why I'm so in love with this Tumuarta brand. And I haven't finished doing that trip yet. There'll be a lot more. But anyway, I love this book. So this is number 2. And I will go to this book for good watercolor art. I say that as opposed to just practice and fun. I will go here when I want to do good watercolor paintings, and I will use the smaller one for, like I showed you, for the little everyday little experiments, and then the Stillman and Burn is for everyday life memories. So I've been going along for quite a while here as a pretty happy camper with what I've shown you, and that is what's in action most of the time when I'm sketching. But I recently I splurged on something because of how magical I thought it must be. And I've seen it, different people on YouTube, because evidently they worked with people on YouTube to get this out. They came out with it. It's the son of an Italian paper company, and he set out to develop a 300-pound watercolor paper sketchbook. You go, what? No such thing. It has never happened. Unless you made it yourself with a tape. I've tried a lot of stuff, a tape binding or something. Anyway, he spent 18 months figuring this out. He put out his first run. I don't know how many. The box is beautiful too. I don't know how many that first run was. And his whole marketing spiel is true flat sketchbook. To me, they all of my favorites lie flat. So that I would never go and buy this because of that. But what blew me away totally, I told you all my life I have painted on arches, or arch as they now say. I have no idea which one, but it's been arches for a really long time in the United States, so whatever. But anyway, 300-pound watercolor paper. And that's because I'm a lazy person and I don't want to stretch. And I've always been a lazy watercolorist. I don't want to stretch 140-pound paper so that it won't buckle, because 300-pound paper won't buckle, period. I have put it through a washing machine trying to get rugged edges, and it didn't do anything. And so a sketchbook with 300-pound paper, I just about lost my mind. So I paid the $50, which is, for what this is, $49. But come on. For what this is, it's totally worth it. It even has a butterfly on it. Okay, so here is what's amazing. This thickness. Now, some people out there, there's always people who know everything. I never saw that. I don't know if it's true. They say they did this by gluing together 2 folded sheets of 140. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me, but it could be true, and I don't care at all, because what it comes off as is just like a 300-pound, 100% cotton, amazing watercolor paper. There is nothing on earth more amazing than arches, but this is pretty darn close. Okay, now, the paper across the no gutter. You will see this seam when you paint across it, but not much. The paper is the same here and here. It's not the same here and here. It's a little rougher, but they matched it up so that we have... And if this was 2 pieces put together, why wouldn't they have the same on both sides? I'm just thinking, it could be, but I don't know. Seems to me like it's a single sheet and it's got 2 surfaces like they do. I don't see any kind of adhesion of anything. And I don't know why I'm wasting time on that. All I wanted to do was to tell you that this exists, because if you use some serious watercolor, you are going to totally love this. Say you want to do a collection book of your paintings, or paintings on a certain subject, or whatever. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous thing. So anyway, they made a run and they sold out, and they made another run, and I don't think they're sold out right now. And you can probably get this. It's shipped pretty quickly because they're based not in Italy, but in Southern California. And so the name is Luchetti, I think, is how they would pronounce it. But anyway, I will find the link and I will put this. This is 8" by 8", so it's a wonderful square size. It's 44 pages. And obviously, you can paint on both sides of I think it's actually, is it 44 total pages? I don't know. I could count them, but not on video. So that constitutes, and I'm going to regather them here, my absolute favorite sketchbooks. Okay, this for the everything recipe. It will work with everything. This for the watercolor recipe. It also will work with everything, but you know, it doesn't have the smoothness of this. But again, it does it. I put photos in here and they stay, and that's great. And I write in here and that's great. But the watercolor, oh, yum. Okay, and then you have the master. And I just got this. I have not decided what I want to do in here. I probably will still make it a sketchbook, right? With all kinds of different little watercolor things. But I just don't know if it's going to be general subject, anything goes, or devoted to something. That's always harder because you can't keep using it then. So I don't know. But it is waiting for me in its box when I decide. Meanwhile, I'm going to give you links to these, and if you work anything like I work, these are the 3 that you want to take a look at. I'll see you next time.